So I wanted to kind of share a little bit about how I started living an alternative life because I don't know if you know my book that I wrote about my journey to the States. Um, at that time, like when I came here, I mean, it was like the dream to make a lot of money and be really successful and live in a big house and yeah, just like have all those things that I thought I really wanted to have. And um, I think even before I got really sick, it kind of all started to fade, and I started to realize that that's not where um, you know, you're gonna find your joy. Um, but the really big shift that kind of happened for me was when I got pretty sick, and at the age of 26, I went in for it was actually for a job. I had to get a doctor check, medical check, whatever it's called. And I went in, and there was like some weird blood results, and then I had to go in another time, and then I had to do a biopsy and another um, like diagnoses. And then I found out I had cancer, and then it had spread, and they were like, oh yeah, hysterectomy. I hadn't had kids. I was 26. I was like, I don't want to do that. I went to another doctor for another opinion because I kind of felt fine, and it was the same thing. And it was like, oh, this is really bad. We need to do all these treatments. And, I don't trust the doctors. I don't trust governments. I don't trust anywhere where there's corruption, it's a red flag for me. So, I knew about water fasting, and I knew about, thousands of people for thousands of years have been doing water fasting and removing basically um, the cause, like food and stressful situations, and completely isolating yourself into a place where you can just focus on healing. So I went and stayed at a water fasting clinic in California, and I fasted for over 40 days of just water. But even before that, you prep and you do like juicing and eliminate basically everything. Can eat like 5 things. And then after the water fast, it was like many weeks of um, just eating really clean, vegan, raw diet with a lot of juicing. Um, and yeah, basically 2.5 months later, after that initial diagnosis, I went in and it was completely gone. And that was when I knew that this lifestyle that we live, that we're so obsessed and we chase, I mean, like literally every single item that people put in their house, in their fancy ass house, every single item of food that most people consume, every single, eyeshadow or clothing or perfume or the nice new car with all the, it's like all the toxins and the overload. And the richer you are, the more exposed you are to all that shit. And I mean, it's really about just like completely breaking it down and just making your life super, super simple and super minimalistic, not only so that you can, do the things that's really important and not spend your whole life working, a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 10, people work crazy hours. But it's also about just getting away from the addiction of like needing all this shit. We don't need a lot of that stuff. You don't need a new sofa. You don't need, those new shoes. You don't need that new better smartphone. I mean, it's just like all those little things. And I think after that, when I healed, I literally almost overnight, I thought, I don't want to live in the city. I don't want to work any kind of regular job. I want to have kids and raise them as far outside of society as possible and truly learn about the things that really matter, that give purpose and meaning to our lives, and also that actually enhance health versus making you sick. And it doesn't mean I don't, eat pizza once in a while, or I drink like beer or wine, or, right now I'm in the city, I'm house sitting, getting a break from my rugged off grid life. And, I splurge once in a while, but like that kind of living should be a treat, not a day to day kind of thing. And yeah, so that was me getting sick and having cancer, and then healing it completely naturally with zero surgeries, zero drugs, was my big wake up call, and why I started living off grid and just kind of like saying no to most things that people see as like the norm, total norm of society. So, yeah, pretty much every single one of us that lives this way kind of had a big reason or a big wake up call as to why it happened. So,